welcome to Gaming News, your roundup of everything that's happened this week in the gaming world. Now, kicking off this episode, we have a little bit of a sad story. For those of you that don't know, GameSpy were a massive server host for a lot of games that are hosted that a lot of you guys have probably played, and they're going to be shutting down. Their parent company, called Glue, actually stopped selling the server licenses at the start of last year, and it's coming round to the time now where these things are being taken offline. So that means games like Crysis, Crysis 2, Red Dead Redemption and a host of other games will most likely have their multiplayer functions disbanded. Certain companies, for example we have Capcom, EA and various other smaller publishers, have already come forward to say that this isn't going to be affecting a lot of their multiplayer titles. They're in the process of migrating all of the servers over to a different host. So games like Battlefield 3, Bad Company 2, games that you'd expect to still have multiplayer support, will still have those. What I think is really sad is that a lot of the games that were still hosted on GameSpy servers weren't that popular anymore. Now we know the game that I'm playing in the background, or what I've got footage of, is Crysis, and this died out pretty quickly. The series itself was absolutely amazing. Crysis 3 died out extremely quickly. That incidentally is one of the games that's being kept on by EA and is going to have servers hosted for it. But I just think it's a shame that all of these games that are still only played by a tiny minority of people are now going to get wiped out unless their developers are migrating the servers, and sometimes it costs them a lot of money to do that. So for smaller developers, you're probably going to see some of those games disappear off the face of the planet. Moving on to something much more upbeat actually, Insurgency is getting Steam Workshop support. Now that translates into custom items in the game, and first of all we're starting off with custom maps. For those of you that don't know what Insurgency is, it's a massively hardcore first-person shooter, and in the last few months it's picked up a massive amount of momentum, and there have been some really good reviews for this game. I'd encourage you to check it out actually. You can get it on Steam, it's relatively cheap, or you can also go to the link in the description, which will take you to my G2A page, where you can get some really good deals on a lot of games out there at the moment. This is one thing that I think is really good for Insurgency. It's already a very good game, but having the ability to upload custom maps will give a sense that we haven't had in the FPS community for a long time. The ability to essentially mod a game is not something that I would associate with the big FPS games out there at the moment, and it's really good to see that the developers want to have community input into their own game. They even say in the press release, please provide us with feedback and issues related to this so we can keep improving it. It basically means they want you to help develop that game a little bit further, and I think that's a really good thing for the community. But my question here is it going to lead other developers to follow suit? I hardly think so. Things like Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty Ghosts, Titanfall really do have an ironclad hold by the developers. They don't want people touching what they're doing with the game. There are mods available. Of course, in Battlefield 4 there's the cinematic tools and things like that. But really, that's about as far as it goes. So, Insurgency having this is sort of setting it apart a little bit, and that's always a good thing. Xbox One versus PS4. This is a debate that's been going on ever since the consoles were released. Now we know that the PS4 was extremely popular in the lead up to these things being released, at least anyway. The Xbox One not so much, but with the release of Titanfall we could have seen a change in the figures in sales. Now at the moment the PS4 is still in the lead with 7 million consoles actually sent out to consumers, so those have been physically bought by somebody, taken back to their house and plugged in. Whereas Microsoft report only 5 million Xbox Ones being shipped to retailers. So you've got to think, some of those are sitting in warehouses to be sent out by Amazon and companies like that. Some are sitting in shops, in game shops in town, on other online retailers and places like that. So the retailers have bought these consoles to then sell them on, but not the consumer has actually bought them. So at the moment, Sony has rather a big lead over its rival. And if this trend continues, there are predictions that state there could be a maximum of 18 million PS4s sold to consumers by the end of 2014, but with the Xbox One only having 8 million sold to consumers, and that's a massive difference. And as I said earlier, I was expecting a bigger increase with the Xbox One due to the release of Titanfall, and we just haven't seen that. I guess there are a lot of people out there that are either on PC now, because it took so long for the new gen consoles to come out, or people are sticking with the Xbox 360 version because we know Bluepoint Games did a bloody good job there. It really will be interesting to see where this console war goes next, because at the moment it looks as if Sony is starting to run away with it a little bit. Looking at their console and what they offer, there isn't a huge amount more than what Microsoft are offering, so maybe it is just a preference. Maybe it's still something to do with that DRM history that the Xbox One has, I'm not too sure. Leave down in the comments below which console you actually have, or which one you would get, and let me know why, because it'd be really interesting to know. And finally, there appears to have been a little bit of an upset in the Bungie developer studio, with the lead composer of the soundtrack and the game audio just up and leaving the company. Well, when I say up and leaving, his contract was terminated. Martin O'Donnell, who was most famous for working on the Halo soundtrack with Bungie while they were a Microsoft studio, his contract was terminated, as I said, and at the moment it doesn't really make sense as to why. There's been no official release from Bungie as to why the contract was terminated, and it was terminated without cause, according to O'Donnell as well. The only thing that has been said by Bungie is by the Chief Operating Officer, Pete Parsons, and he says this: "At Bungie, we don't take that kind of thing lightly. We don't make those decisions lightly. We're a team that's committed to making an amazing game set in an amazing universe. At this time, we won't be commenting any further on this." It's always really sad when we see a veteran leave a developer studio. I mean, look at Amy Hennig, for example, working on some amazing games at Naughty Dog, just up and left. Now, what's your bet that Martin O'Donnell ends up at Visceral Games working alongside her with the next Star Wars game? $10 says it does. But thank you very much for watching today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button so other people can check out the news that's going on in the gaming world right now. And make sure you leave all your comments down below today, they are always appreciated. But until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.